Hi, I'm Lois.
And I'm Stacey.
And you're listening to Whose Girl Are You? Today we're going to talk about something that has been on my mind. I've been contemplating. Why do we dream what we dream? And I don't know if you do this, but this is something I do. When I do something a lot, when we started our podcast and I was editing a lot, I would dream the waveforms and the Audacity. A piece of that was in there. When we do the Firm Foundation auction fundraiser that I've done for a few years, I'm sitting on a spreadsheet forever, those weeks leading up to the auction and after the auction. So I dream and there's Google Sheets in it. Anything that I do when I worked at the restaurant when I was a teenager, I would go to sleep and I would dream about waitressing.
Yeah, no, I get that. One of my first jobs was a checker at a grocery store. And you know that when you scan the thing and it goes beep, beep, everything. I would have dreams where that beeping would be in my dream. And I wouldn't necessarily be checking groceries in my dream, but I'd hear that and I'd be like looking around in my dream for like where that beep is coming from. I'd hear it.
Right.
So I know what you're talking about for super repetitive stuff.
So why do we dream what we dream?
It is a kind of an interesting topic, right? And it's funny because I don't remember a lot of my dreams. Some people seem to remember a lot of their dreams. Mm-hmm. My daughter is one of those people. She is always telling me about some weird dream she had. It's hard for me to listen to people's dreams because I want to be like, get to the point, and there really is no point to those stories. Right? It's just like...
It's processing? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like buckle up and listen. Mm-hmm. And so I think she gets a little annoyed with me. Anyone that knows me, if I do this to people, I'm sorry. Honestly, I'm trying to be a better human. But when I'm in a stress situation or I feel rushed or overworked or something to that nature,
right,
and someone's just trying to tell me some lengthy story about something that I don't care about at all,
right,
I can be a little rude. It takes me, I'll listen as long as I can, right?
Yeah.
And then I always am like, what's the point? Can you get to the point?
Yeah. And there isn't one.
I know that that's rude and I'm really trying hard, but some people just test your patience because their stories are so long. I can only, I'm building up my tolerance.
Yeah.
And I know it's rude. I know it's rude, but it's kind of the same. It's the same thing that I'm working on with myself about when certain people in my family eat certain things certain ways.
Right.
And I try, in my brain, I'm telling myself, settle down. It's not a big deal. Just ignore it. Sometimes I'll tell Alexa to turn on music. Maybe that will help to distract me from the noise that they're making.
Right.
And I think there is actually like a kind of a disorder, but I don't know about that. Everything's a disorder nowadays, right? Like people that have a hard time listening to certain sounds. Yeah, like I really struggle with it. Someone will be talking to me, but if they're also chewing weird or whatever at the same time, I can't hear a word they're saying. All I can hear is the sound of the chewing, and it takes everything in me not to just slam my fist down on the table and say, will you stop that already?
Yeah.
Or scraping the bottom of a bowl. Yeah. For that last drip of ice cream, just go get another scoop. I'll give you a bucket of ice cream if you'll stop scraping that spoon.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. I digress. Now I'm just telling you all of my annoyances for some reason. Because listening to someone's lengthy dream falls into this category for me. That's why I went there with it. But I will share this. I had I almost would call it a nightmare the other night. And without sharing too much details, it was related to work. And in my dream, I had showed up at work, which was a church, and the whole church was decorated for a wedding. I'm talking the lobby had the guest book and flowers everywhere. And the whole church was fully decked out for a wedding, except for the wedding had already taken place, right? It's like they had had the wedding and left. So it wasn't just set up beautifully for a wedding. It was set up for a wedding, but used napkins and used plates, garbage cans. And can you picture this?
Yes.
And I was like, we have church. And so I'm frantically trying, and all by myself, and I'm trying to clean up the church. And so this is the nightmare part of my dream. I'm just single-handedly trying to take care of this. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden in my dream, my pastor starts following me around, yelling at me. Like, not yelling at me, but just like making these comments like, I can't believe you'd let this happen.
Right.
Like, I thought you had things more under control. And I think when I woke up from that, I thought to myself, my pastor he would not do that, right?
Right.
Nor would anyone leave the church like that. Like, this is obviously just a weird dream. But I did consider, is there some kind of underlying, like, insecurity in me, in my position at work? I'm not going to say I didn't kind of consider it.
Exactly.
You know, the whole dialogue of, I can't believe you'd let this happen. I thought you had more control over what was going on here. You know, do I feel like I'm I feel like I have things in hand.
Right.
But, anyway.
But that's exactly why I wanted to talk about it, because it's like, is there some underlying insecurity, question? Because I've had the same thing where I've dreamed with relationships. You know, I'll dream something either hurtful or disappointing, you know, some kind of negative situation. I'll give you an example as well. This happened many years ago.
Just don't make it too long or
you'll lose interest. Not too long and detailed. Okay, I'll tell you a short version.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
I dreamed I had, at that time, I think it was 4 kids, if I remember right. I had 4 kids. I don't remember a lot of detail. It was like Arizona or somewhere kind of deserty, Utah, something like that. And there was a bad guy. I woke up and I thought, oh my word, I should make a movie, because it was thriller, terrifying, where your blood runs cold that moment when you know that this guy who has befriended you and helped you is the bad guy, you know? You know that kind of movie where there's this person who's so helpful and
you trust them and
trust them, and then your blood runs cold when they're that moment when you know they're the bad guy.
Sure.
Well, I had a weapon. I had a certain number of bullets. In my dream, I am trying to get away from this bad guy with my kids. And I'm shooting at enemies, whatever, other bad guys, whatever. And in my brain, I'm thinking I have to save enough bullets for me and my kids.
No.
Because I will never let my kids fall into this this person was a monster. Like, I knew that.
Well, yeah, if you'd rather your kids die than fall into the hands of somebody, for sure they have to be horrific.
They were horrific. And I woke up and I'm like, what kind of monster am I to dream that, right? But yet, in another sense, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I don't want my kids to die. That's horrible. And I was like, maybe my brain is like, Lois, you will protect your kids at all costs. Like, if that's what it takes to protect them from this monster, then I will do that. Like, I will.
Would you, though? Think about it.
I don't know.
Let's think this through.
I know. This is a dream, right? This is a dream. And that's the whole dream.
Oh, I thought we were woken up from the dream now.
Yeah, we are. We are woken up. But what I was going to say is that was the end of the dream. I never did
kill him.
That's when I woke up.
You didn't kill anybody.
I didn't kill anybody. I didn't kill the monster. I didn't kill.
Okay, I get it. But now, so you wake up and you start thinking.
And I'm like, what?
And you're like, I would protect my kids at all costs. But would you really protect your kids to the point of killing your own kid? Like,
I don't know.
I don't care if it's like.
I don't know if I would. I have no idea.
Well,
that's probably why I woke up without the dream solved. I woke up with it still cliffhangering.
I mean, I don't think we can, right? Because thou shalt not murder.
I know, but I was going to shoot the bad guy. I shouldn't murder him either.
That's different. No, that's different. protecting, like doing something, like killing someone out of protection. Even in the Bible, it says
no,
that.
I know.
Like,
No, I know. Exactly.
and there's sanctuary cities and all sorts of stuff for like stuff that happens, even accidental killing, like manslaughter, whatever. There's like, it speaks to that. There's a difference between murder and killing someone.
Yes. No, I get that. Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I agree.
So you could murder the bad guy, but I don't think you can kill your kids to protect them. Right? Because then, I mean, I understand the base desire. Sure.
Well, and I don't even know. So for me, it wasn't necessarily like, I never really contemplated the whole would I, but to me, it was a exercise maybe in how much I love and cherish my children. Like
Sure.
I would protect them.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what it was to me.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, were any of your kids going through difficult times around that time?
Yeah, where they felt they needed
where you
protection.
felt where you would have felt like you needed to protect your kids from something that was happening. Was
Right.
that in real life happening at the time of the dream? Can you recall?
I don't recall any circumstances, but it wouldn't surprise me at all because at that point my kids were in public school. So
And you have quite a few of them.
So yeah, I mean,
Okay. Yeah. I just don't remember that many of my dreams. I mean, I'll remember the feeling of the feeling of the dream when I wake up and I'm
Right.
first, using the bathroom, and I'll think, wow, that's crazy. Like whatever the feeling is, but it's almost like by the time you're done washing your hands, you can't remember what you dreamed anymore, right? It's like so
Right.
fleeting. It's so strange how it's so fleeting because in the moment, it had this real like to be able to create this real feeling in you.
mm-hmm, I know.
This dream felt so real,
Mm-hmm.
even if nothing in it really makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
But then it's gone. Like, how can it be so impactful, but also like you just can't remember?
Yeah. Where it disappears like mist.
Well, I told you, like, in the few that I remember are so impactful that way because there's so few that I remember. Like, I've told you about the one that, after Lois had died, a few months after Lois had died, I had the dream where I ran into her and I was like, oh my gosh, you're alive. And she's like, of course I am, dummy. And then I thought, oh yeah, like I believe in
Mm-hmm.
resurrection.
Yeah.
Right. So, but for whatever reason, I went from, and literally that dream helped me so much because it was kind of like I was in this place where it was like, Lois is dead. Lois is dead. It was like just a horrible, dark place.
Yeah.
To after the dream thinking, Lois is actually alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that dream did help me to kind of turn a corner in my grief.
Process that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I think. I always wonder is if that's like the purpose of it.
I mean, I've read also that, and I don't know how true this is, I've read that our brains are kind of like a file box and there's so much stuff coming in and we're trying to process and learn and think and conversations we've had and whatever. And that when we go to bed, sometimes the reason why they're mixed up and all of a sudden you're cooking pancakes in the back of a truck while a pink elephant drives you to the carnival or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and it doesn't make any sense is because those are little pieces of things from like a book you read to your kid and a song that you heard on the radio and a conversation you had with that person. And it's like the brain trying to file them into the appropriate categories to be pulled back out later if needed.
Right.
And so that's why sometimes they'll be a little bit jumbled as you're sorting those papers out and filing them into where they need to be.
Yeah, exactly.
And
that's the thing. There's always, or maybe I shouldn't say always, maybe I should say often. There's often a correlation with real life. If, when I'm canning peaches, I used to can peaches back in the old days.
Mm-hmm.
And
old days, like
yeah,
you
really.
look like you're like 85 or something.
Well, I
I
haven't canned peaches for probably 20 years.
Carry on. Sorry.
But no, that's what I meant. I used to, my older kids know what home canned peaches are.
Sure. Yeah.
Because they helped me, and I mean, they ate them obviously, but.
Do they have fond memories of canning or are they like,
Actually, they probably do because they didn't help me that much. It was more a fun day. A lot of times I did it with friends. So it was me and Joy, or usually probably me and Joy. And, our kids would be playing off. They'd be watching the little kids, the babies.
Yeah. Cause I've heard of people don't ever want to can anything because their mom made them do so much canning as a kid. They have no interest.
Yes, exactly.
But it wasn't like that for your kids.
Yeah, mostly they would, visit, play, and watch the younger kids.
Yeah.
While Joy and I did the
work of it.
The actual work of it. But, they helped some. They would be in there sometimes too.
Anyway, it's not about canning peaches, actually. But I kind of pulled you to the side on that one.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Let's, I will hard right turn anytime. But when I'm canning peaches, I go to bed and I dream about canning peaches. Making strawberry jam, I would dream about strawberries.
What does it say though about people like me that very rarely dream?
I don't know. I think the medical, there's so many studies they can do now and they can read so much more of the brain scans and impulses and whatever that I think they say that everybody dreams. You just don't remember it.
So I have a problem with my short-term memory, and also
no.
I have a problem with my short-term memory. So, I don't know. I mean, I do remember some though. So, there's that.
Yeah.
But then there's other people, like my daughter, who I feel like she remembers so many of her dreams.
Yeah.
And she's a kid who, by the way, when she was young, would not only sleepwalk, but sleep talk.
Mm-hmm.
She would come up to the side of my bed and start arguing with me in the middle of the night, and I didn't realize right at first, being woken up from my sleep, that she was sleeping.
Right.
Once I finally clued into what was actually happening, I would just, okay, and then kind of gently guide her back to sleep and put her back in her bed.
Oh, come on, it wasn't gentle. I know
Here's the thing about
go to bed.
I was so gentle.
I know.
First, I'd argue with her on the side of my bed, and then I would grab her by the shoulders and lead her and tuck her back in. But she didn't remember those, though, which is funny.
Yeah, I used to have conversations. When we first got married, Al would have full-on conversations with me, and then he'd refer to him the next day. Like something about, going wherever to go fishing or something, and I'm like...
He didn't know that you were sleeping?
He didn't know I was asleep.
Oh. See, I did the opposite. Like, my husband would talk in his sleep sometimes, and I had heard that if you ask them questions when they're in that mode, that they'll answer you. So I started trying to ask him questions, just experimental,
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, by me asking, and I was trying to be all quiet about it, I was just I can't even remember what I was asking him. It was kind of funny though, because it was I'm talking, we were first year of marriage type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was kind of I was like, do you like my cooking? I was a horrible cook back then. And he was mumbling back, and I couldn't really make out what he was saying. And I kept at it, right? Thinking maybe I'll be able to really kind of pick up on something. And then what ended up happening actually was me trying to talk to him like that woke him up. And then he's like, stop trying to talk to me in my sleep. And he hollered at me, I never did it again. Plus I didn't get any good results anyway. I couldn't make out what he was saying.
Right.
But one time he was really stressed out at work. He was foreman for a construction company, and they were full on at the height of building out this subdivision, and they were cranking out houses in 60 days,
Yeah.
It was work. The subdivision we lived in, the last house we lived in before we had moved. And at one time he sat straight up in bed and just screamed at the top of his lungs, "Get to work." Woke me out of a dead sleep. And then he laid right back down and started snoring immediately. And the next day I told him about it. And I started realizing that when he hit his high stress moments in his life, that's when he'd talk in his sleep. And if he was in a calm state, he would not be talking in his sleep. So it was a good gauge for me. I'm a light sleeper, so I would wake up to things like that. Mm-hmm. So then I could start gauging his stress level. Right. And then trying to not add to it,
Right. Right.
So exactly. I mean, I never try to add to it, but, try harder.
Be a little more careful.
Try to be a little bit more nice.
Yeah, exactly. No, ours was really early on it when we were first married too, when Al would talk to me, and make plans for the next day. And then he'd bring it up and I'd be like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, we talked about this last night. We're going fishing this afternoon after work. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, yes, you do. We talked about it. And it took a few times of that happening. And I'm like, honey, I really honestly don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is so weird. Cause then I'm like, well, you dreamed it. You dreamed you talked to me. And he's like, no, I was wide awake. And I'm like,
I can picture this argument. Two stubborn Finns arguing about whether you had the conversation or not. Yeah.
Yeah. And we did. And at some point, I stopped talking in my sleep, but I would talk in my sleep when I was younger. When we first got married, I still did. And it wasn't long after that it kind of, I would say within the first year of marriage, it had settled down. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it was just mumbling or whatever, where it wasn't like conversation.
Yeah, it's not like coherent. I mumble in my sleep.
Yeah.
I've been told. I'd rather talk in my sleep than snore.
People who do that too.
Mm-hmm. I know people that do both.
Yeah.
Highly talented.
How do they get any sleep at all, right?
I don't know. They seem to sleep the best. It's the people that sleep with them that have the struggle.
Are they rested, actually?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't know. I should ask my husband if I can look at his fitness tracker data and see what his sleep stuff has been saying and compare it to mine.
Yeah.
So, dreams. What about in the Bible where it talks about, like I think it's Revelation where it talks about, and like your old men will see visions, and this is the worst misquote ever. I should look it up. Yeah. And like your young men will dream dreams, or however it all goes, Mm-hmm. And there was dreams in the Bible that actually had significance as well. Remember when, what's his face? This is great. I'm such a theologian. What's his face had the dream about all of the haystacks bending down toward him?
Yeah. Yeah. That was Joseph.
And it was like all of his brothers, and it was a future thing that was going to happen during that famine, right? That all his brothers would bow down to him.
Yeah.
So there's some prophetic dreams and some prophetic visions, I think, right? So there's that. But then you ever run into people that it seems like they think every dream they have is prophetic or has some sort of meaning to it or whatever?
Yes, has significance of some kind.
Yeah. And I don't ever know how to deal with that or handle that. And I don't want to say, I don't know. You know what I mean? I just kind of listen and shrug and do what you want with it. But I know that does take place, but I don't think it always takes place.
Right. Exactly. So I looked up that quote.
Yeah.
It's actually Acts. It's Paul's, not Paul. Paul wasn't there on the day of Pentecost. Peter on the day of Pentecost. As bad as me. I know, right? Peter on the day of Pentecost says the crowds are saying that the disciples or the apostles are drunk because they're speaking in tongues and whatever. Tongues.
Yeah.
And he says this is what was uttered through the prophet Joel. So it's in Acts chapter 2, but he's quoting Joel.
Okay.
So it's in both places. And in the last days it shall be, God declares, that I will pour out my spirit on all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. Even on my male servants and female servants in those days I will pour out my spirit, and they shall prophesy.
And technically, the last days are from the moment of Pentecost until his return, right?
Yes.
We are in the last days, and we have been since then. So
since Christ, yeah.
Since Christ, yeah. Since the Holy Spirit came.
Resurrection, yeah. I don't know where the actual dividing line, could be the Spirit, yeah.
Well, I mean, within a week's time, let's just, It's,
no, I know, but that's what I'm saying. Since the time of Christ.
Since the time of Christ. So some of those dreams that I was talking about before, Joseph and all that, was before Christ.
Yes, totally. And God definitely gave visions and dreams.
Sure. Yeah. But then I think it was like, because the Holy Spirit's poured out at Pentecost, now more so probably we're going to see tongues, dreams, visions, healings, blah, blah, blah. Like more so than before the Holy Spirit was given.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And especially in that in that era when the church was in its infancy.
Mm-hmm. You think more so?
I think more so.
For it to spread.
Mm-hmm.
Or to validate it.
To establish. Yeah, establish.
So do you think it also happens more, you see that more when like missionaries end up going to a totally unchurched part of like China or something, and you'll hear about more miracles happening in tongues and visions and things like that, or
it
Iraq
like
or whatever.
Yeah.
To validate the truth of the gospel.
Well, and it says, the scripture says that if a prophecy is made and it comes true, then you know that that's from God.
Yeah.
If it doesn't come true, then that person is a false prophet.
Yeah. But as far as dreams, there is no like...
I know. No, exactly.
There's no, I feel like it's hard because there's no litmus test necessarily. Like, sure, if someone prophesies Trump's going to get reelected in the next election and then he doesn't, you're just like, okay,
Yeah, false prophet.
Yeah, I'm not going to listen to you. So, but with the dreams, it's like, I had this dream that I'm going to go to Boston and find a girl wearing red pants sitting at Faneuil Hall, and we're going to talk about, like, well, actually, that would be a little bit more easy because it's like, well, then go and like tell me if you see a girl with red pants sitting at Faneuil Hall, like, and then that would be like, okay, that's probably was a dream from God telling you to go and do this certain thing, and maybe this person needs to hear about Christ and has never heard the gospel. I don't know.
Yeah.
But some of the dreams, they're not so much like that, right? It's
no, exactly. Exactly. Canning peaches is just canning peaches.
Yeah.
Or making strawberry jam.
Yeah.
Or living in a thriller movie. 'Cause, dude, it was crazy. It was crazy.
No, I've had dreams where I've been chased and I'm running for my life through like a cornfield.
Yeah.
And I chalk most of those kind of dreams up to the fact that I watched way too many scary movies in my youth when my brain was forming.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recommend.
Yeah.
We had no censorship. Like when I was a kid in the 80s.
Yeah.
I don't even know when they came out with the whole GDPR. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that was a thing. Like I was telling one of my kids the other day, he was riding his bike while I was walking, and I can't remember how it came up. And I said, well, no, they're like some of the cars we had when I was growing up didn't have seatbelts. And he stopped and looked at me like, you're so ridiculous. And I was like, no, I'm serious. And he's like, really? He's like, when did seatbelts get invented? I'm like, that's not the point. I said, the point is seatbelts were invented, but it wasn't mandatory that every car had them when they were manufactured because of laws or whatever. And I said, they've eventually each state adopted whatever, or it became a federal law that every car must have a seatbelt. And then each state said whether you have to wear it or not. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I Googled it and I was like, Michigan, it didn't become a state law to wear your seatbelt in Michigan until 1983. I was like, dude, I was born in 76.
I know.
And I was like, and the cars that we had, we weren't rich. So our cars were old.
Yeah.
So they were manufactured before.
Yes.
It was a federal law to have seatbelts in cars. So I'm like, I'm not lying when I say we had cars without seatbelts.
Yeah.
So.
And I got married in 1983. That's the year I got married.
Yeah.
That's the year that it became law. And my dad would not wear one until the day he died. Because he's like, the state is not going to tell me what to do. Like,
I feel like my generation's like that with bike helmets.
Yeah, on the East Coast.
On the East Coast, yeah.
Because here, it's law that you have to wear. You get a ticket.
If you're a little kid?
In Oregon, yeah. Under 16. I think in Oregon, under 16. So when we go to the camp out, that's in Oregon. And that's one of the things on the little camp out registration form that they send you all this information. Like, remember quarters, remember bike helmets, because if your kids are going to ride the bike to the store on Oregon roads. Now, if they're in the campground, they don't necessarily have to wear them because the campground is not
a state road.
Yeah, it's not a road.
Well,
but if they go out on the road, they have to have a bike helmet on.
Can you please tell me how I got onto this subject?
We were talking about movie ratings.
Oh, yes.
How movies got rated.
Yeah. And I don't know when that started happening, but I'm thinking there must not have been ratings, either that or my parents didn't care about ratings and we just watched whatever we wanted to watch. And I watched a lot of like all of the Nightmare on Elm Street and.
Well, I just looked it up. There's Motion Picture Ratings, Motion Picture Association of America. in 1968 established a system of ratings, but it wasn't mandatory to use it. Same as seatbelts.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And those regulations were not in place. The legislation was not in place to require it.
Right.
So at some point they started.
Because it also wasn't on, I actually remember when they started putting it on music.
Right?
Because rap started hitting the suburbs when I was in probably middle school, high school.
Well, you were talking before about MTV.
They had ratings, yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is our parents, my generation, our parents had like no idea of it. Like your dad would not wear a seatbelt till the day he died because he was like, we never wore seatbelts. We were fine, you know?
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Well, my parents never had ratings on anything. So that first generation was just like ratings, whatever. Like, why are you going to tell someone what kind of music they can listen to or what kind of movie they can watch, you know?
Yeah.
And then my generation's like, this is why.
Yeah.
You know?
Because we have nightmares when we're 50.
Yeah. It's probably smart to
Not that you're 50. Not you.
Oh,
Other
close
people.
enough. I don't mind. Like, I'm not one of those that gets all bent out of shape about my age, you know? Oh my gosh, I'm going to be 50. I don't care. Honestly, I'm still alive.
Yeah.
I'm still able to move, and for the most part, I have my brain. I am getting more forgetful.
Yeah.
But not bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine. I don't know what. Everyone says 50 will hit you. Maybe it will when it finally comes. I have a couple more years.
Yeah.
2 years and X amount of months.
Yeah.
Did it hit you?
Yeah, 50 was weird. Yeah, it was weird.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
It probably will. I mean, it bothers most people.
It doesn't really, it didn't bother me. But it's just kind of, yes, kind of reflective.
Yeah,
like,
okay.
Wow, this is super weird. And then looking back on pictures of my parents and my grandparents and whoever, like when they were 50, and I'm like, man, I guess more and more it just makes me realize how fast life goes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part that makes me reflective and introspective is this life is a vapor. The scripture really means it.
Yeah.
Like, boom, it's gone. You know, there's another decade. Boom, gone. And you're like, whoa. I think we talked about in another podcast where the 50 mark is like where you start to say, my life is probably well over, half over.
Yeah, with Jenny and Maya, we were talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just weird.
Chances are you're past the halfway point.
Yeah.
Most people don't live to 100.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Yeah. 50. It's a pretty big birthday.
Yeah. But all those things that you put in your brain in the 80s and I put in my brain in the 80s, I was actually not exposed to a lot. I remember a movie. I don't know if we've talked about this before, but I'm going to tell you about a movie that I saw in school. I'm going to tell you another dream. This was a movie that caused a dream sequence. So you have to just buckle up and listen.
I don't wear seatbelts. I live in New Hampshire.
No helmets either.
No, but I'll listen.
Okay. So I was in like 3rd or 4th grade. We watched this film in school. I'm dating myself here. You know, a film strip where there's the big wheel and the...
I don't think we did that. I think it was VHS all the way for me in school, as far as I can remember.
Yeah, no, we had movie reels.
Okay.
And the projector, they'd wheel the projector in on a big cart.
I mean, maybe. Actually, maybe we did. I might have vague memory of this.
It would blink that
Beep,
5,
beep,
4,
beep,
3
beep. Yep.
countdown.
Yeah.
Is that crazy? Anyways, we watched this movie in school. And in the movie, this child, I think it was a boy in the movie, was like 10, 12, 10, something. I think it was his neighbor. They lived in like a city and there were like older homes where they were, I don't know if they were like apartments, like these old houses turned into sort of apartments. So there may be 2 or 3 or 4 residents in one quote unquote house, but they each had their own outside entrance and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in this, I don't even know. There's a name for that, but it's like flat, like with like a flat or something. I don't know the terminology because I didn't ever grow up in a city with those kind of apartments. You know, Chassel was really not, didn't really have What do they call the crowded living?
Nothing past 2 stories in Chassel.
Exactly. So this kid was helping this older lady that was a neighbor, and he would get her mail for her, and he would maybe pick up something for her from the grocery store if he was going there for his mom. And so he was being helpful to this neighbor. And I don't even know why we watched this movie, because mostly what we watched was like safety films. They had a purpose and a point, the reproduction or girls film about your body when you're in fourth or fifth grade or whatever, they were like educational.
Yeah.
And this didn't seem to be educational. It was, in my brain, it was a thriller. What
part was a thriller?
It was a horror movie.
Wait a second. Okay. Get to the point then. Like what?
See, I knew you couldn't just be patient and wait. I'm teasing. So this kid, there was like a darkness to the movie there was a underlying.
Okay, I get it.
Wickedness.
Like it's like it has like this ominous feel and look and whatever, and you're like, something's going to happen. You're on the edge. You're like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen?
Yes.
Okay.
And I dreamed that dream for many years. I watched this thing in school.
Okay, wait a second though. Did anything actually happen?
I don't remember.
This sounds like the weirdest movie.
I know, and I'm
you were in elementary school?
Yeah, like
fourth grade. What?
Yeah.
When were you born?
I was born in 1966.
So
1976.
Yeah. You're watching some weird movie.
Yeah, I don't even know what it was. I don't know. Maybe my brain turned it into an ominous movie. Maybe it was.
It was probably about like how to be kind to your neighbors.
Yeah.
And help the elderly.
Yeah. Yes. And
haul in their groceries. And those like, something's going to happen.
Yeah. Shovel snow for them. And in my dream, I'm that little kid. It was a little boy, but in my dream, I'm that little kid. I'm living in this flat. I have a neighbor who is just scary. I'm scared to death of this person.
But this person never actually did anything.
But they never did anything. But
I know they're going to.
But I know they're going to.
Okay.
It's just super weird. I'm telling you, dreams are weird. This is why I wanted to talk about dreams.
No, dreams are weird. For sure, right? Like the whole reason I can't still to this day hang my hand or my foot over the side of the bed is from watching that stupid movie. Is that the one with the clown?
I don't know.
I watch too many. I mix them all up together, and it's just like if I hang my hand or my foot off the side, even outside of the sheet, I cannot do it to this day because I feel like there's something's going to grab it.
Yeah.
It's so dumb.
Like you're exposed.
Yeah, like a sheet's going to actually protect it. That's the crazy part.
I know,
like
right?
If it's on the bed or under a sheet, it's going to be protected. But if one finger hangs over the side, I'm done for.
Mm-hmm.
Or if my foot is not covered by a sheet, something bad is going to happen, and I just cannot shake it. I try every once in a while just to see if I can.
Yeah.
No.
Isn't that so weird? I'm telling you, our brains are so complex. How much? 10%? How much of our brain do we use?
I probably use about 2%.
No, like do you know what the average is though? Isn't it something like 10?
It's not much.
It's a low percentage.
I'm going to look it up.
Okay. That low percentage of brain, I think there's so much more, like our brains do so much. That kind of stuff, sorting through and processing those things. This is like totally another rabbit trail, but it kind of all goes together because this whole dream, what you input into your brain influences your life, and a lot of scary movies, and you have these kind of neuroses. I don't know. They're not neuroses, but they're a mild form of it.
It's so deeply ingrained.
Yes.
Things that happen when you're young, I think, can get so deeply ingrained. And the weird thing is two people can go through the exact same experience, and one's affected deeply and the other one doesn't even remember it happening.
Yes,
so that's always interesting. Okay, well, listen, this 10% of your brain being used thing is a myth.
Oh, is it? Okay, good.
It said it's not clear how
Like
this
it.
myth began, but there's several possible sources. Articles published in 1907, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
There is also a belief among scientists that neurons make up around 10% of the brain's cells. This may have contributed to the 10% myth.
Oh, okay.
But it said we actually use, the majority of the brain is almost always active.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good to know. Thanks for looking that up because I would have been spreading the myth.
Yeah, it said one common brain imaging technique called functional fMRI can measure activity in the brain while a person is performing different tasks. Using this and similar methods, researchers show that most of our brain is in use most of the time, even when a person is performing a very simple action. A lot of the brain is even active when a person is resting or sleeping.
See, that's the thing. It's going through those files, like you were saying, and putting all the papers in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not papers, but
It's interesting because depending on what you're thinking about, different parts of the brain light up.
Yes, totally. And that's what I'm talking about, where the old myth of only 10% of your brain being used. But I think with the scanning and the imaging and stuff that they can do now, they can totally map that.
So I've seen a lot of brain imaging, surprisingly, because my sister is an epileptic. And she has been since she was little, not born with it, but since she was rather young. And when she lived out here with me, we had went up to Dartmouth because one of the neurologists thought she might possibly be a candidate for brain surgery, like a partial lobotomy, something like that. And which, okay, if you want to get part of your brain cut out, she like was so willing. This is how awful epilepsy can be, that you're willing to cut part of your brain out and take some risks if there is a chance of cure. So anyway, long story short, she goes up to the hospital and they said, what we're going to do is we're going to wean her off of all the medications she's on, because she's on a lot of them. Wean her off slowly while we have her hooked up to, like, her whole brain's hooked up to these scanning machines. You can see them at any given time, right? And they're recording all the data. And then once they have her weaned off, they're going to have her weaned off for X amount of days while they continue to record data. And then they'll slowly put her back on her meds. Well, as they took her off her meds, when they had her completely off all of the medications, the seizure activity in the brain was firing. I believe they said every 20 seconds she was having a seizure. It was like 3 times a minute from different parts of the brain.
Yeah.
So they didn't have her off of the medication as long as they had anticipated, because they didn't realize how high the brain activity. So now the seizure activity.
Yeah.
So now when people ask me, well, is your sister's epilepsy under control? And it's like, yes, because she's having seizures only a few times a week, right? Which doesn't seem under control for some people. But when you realize that without any medication, she's having 3 a minute, and they're coming from different parts of the brain, that's interesting, right? And then also, like, the longer seizures, the short seizures, not as much as far as they know, but the longer seizures, actually, they have found kind of almost wipe parts of the hard drive, like you lose files. I mean, just talking about it like a computer, just to be able to visualize it a little bit. So you could talk to my sister, have a full conversation about something that happened. She might even tell you about something that she did that happened, and you tell her and you have the conversation, totally normal. And then 2 days later, you talk to her and you refer back to the thing that she had told you that she had done. She has no idea what you're talking about because she had had a seizure and that short-term memory is wiped. It's like she never had it.
Yeah.
So we joke that one of the only benefits to this is that she really loves the Golden Girls, and they're not putting out any new episodes, but she's able to watch the episodes because she doesn't remember she watched them. So they're all new to her all the time, like 50 First Dates kind of thing, like Drew Barrymore movie. Because if you don't laugh, you're going to cry, right? And so she still watches Golden Girls and thoroughly enjoys it. And sometimes they feel like new episodes to her because she can't remember because she had a seizure and it wiped that part of her brain out. Yeah. So she's still living like a good life, or like she's a happy person and all of that. But it's interesting that to watch the brain fire up in different places. And it's like, how can these seizures actually be coming from all these different places, right? Right. And then it makes me think, well, if different memories are stored in different parts of the brain, then it makes sense why sometimes she might lose some long-term stuff and sometimes she might lose some short-term stuff, and sometimes she might, why she's losing some gross motor skills over time, right? Because it's damaging it over time.
Right.
but how resilient it is too, when you think about the amount of damage her brain has had, and still she's older than me.
Yeah.
She's 49. So
yeah, that's crazy.
It's crazy. The brain is just,
it's miraculous.
It's miraculous, and they know a lot about it, but it's still, they'll all, like neurologists and scientists and whatever, still admit that there's so much about it that they just really don't understand.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's still completely a mystery. Yeah. We have very, very basic, even though we have so much more knowledge now that they have the imaging and whatever that they can do. But compared to, say, when was it? Like late 90s, if I remember right, that they started being able to do those kinds of mappings and things. Mm-hmm. And I mean, before that, we had no evidence of any of this. There was theory and there was myth. 10% of your brain is the only part you use, whatever. But that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
I think the idea of the myth is that there is so much about this we don't know, and it's capable of so much more than we can understand.
Yeah, well, I came across a super interesting fact the other day that I quickly texted to my father, even though he was upstairs and I was downstairs. But it said, if you have hearing loss and need hearing aids, like the doctor has said you have hearing aids, and you choose not to wear them, you have a 48% more likelihood that you're going to develop some form of dementia.
Really?
Yeah. There's like an absolute like link to this. So they're not saying, you understand? Like it's pretty simple, right? So, and my dad has hearing aids and he doesn't wear them. Like I haven't seen him wear them once. He's lived with me for a year and a half. Yeah. And so I was just like, wear your hearing aids, because for anyone listening that doesn't know, my mom just died from a form of dementia. Yeah. A year and a half ago. Yeah. And so I was just like, I can't go through that again. Yeah. Not that, how much control do we all have over what happens to our brains and whatever? I don't know. I don't know. But if you do, the more you know, and if you do know, like, then do it. I see you drinking water. We know we should drink water, so we drink water. We know we should exercise, so we exercise. Like, by all means, do the things you can to have some quality of life while you're here, even though it's a vapor. Yeah. So anyway, that's my little bit of advice for anyone that has hearing aids. Wear them. Yes. It's good for your brain.
It's good for everybody else's brain too, because they can
talk
to you and you hear them.
How many times can a person repeat themselves without getting to the point where they're just
frustrated? Yeah.
I get frustrated. Yeah. I just sometimes like, they're like, what? And I just like, won't say it again. Like I'm just stubborn like that. I'm just like, and they're like, what? And I was just like, I just shake my head. No, I'm like, I don't, you know what? You don't have to wear your hearing aids, but I also don't have to repeat myself. Like some days I just like, I don't have it in me. Yeah. I sound like such a jerk when I talk out loud about how I feel. For real. I don't know. I'm so glad I have people that love me.
We do love you, Stacey. An older gentleman, I just read a thing. He was talking about that very thing and being old, and and he wrote it really in a kind of a funny and sweet way. Mm-hmm. If you're old and you have hearing loss and you ask people to repeat themselves, they'll do it once. They might be a little bit grumbly about it. If you ask them a second time because you didn't hear what they actually said, they're going to get angry at you and they're going to yell. If you have to ask a third time.
Especially when they have $6,000 hearing aids sitting up on their nightstand fully charged. Like, just put them on. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've never worn them. Maybe they're awful, but they're so tiny. It's not like the big hearing aids they used to have. These things are like tiny.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. The advances in medical aids for people's lives, for quality of life for people.
Sure.
Everything from glasses to hearing aids to surgeries to fixing your eyes.
Oh, I had LASIK eye surgery. Even to the fitness, the wearable fitness things that we have that can help us know, are we actually lying to ourselves or are we staying active? Yeah. Exactly. Like I wear a fitness ring and it will tell me, it will say, I have the notifications turned on because I want to, Yeah. And it will say, time to get up and stretch your legs, like too long of an inactivity period.
Yeah.
But I actually like that, right? Because I work a desk job. And so sometimes I want to be like, you know what? You're right. I'm going to get up, slam a bottle of water and take 2 laps around the parking lot. It's probably good for me.
Yeah. And you'll probably actually be more productive.
Exactly.
Because your blood is pumping.
Yeah. So I appreciate like all of those little devices and helps that we have. And it will even tell me, you know, your ideal time to go to sleep is between 9:30 and 10:30 p.m.
Yeah.
You know, based on like my data.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I agree with that. Fitness ring.
Yeah.
So
You're smart. Fitness ring.
That's my target now, like where I just like am mindful, because there's plenty of studies out there that show if you go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time, it's better for you.
Yeah.
Mentally, physically, you know, all of it. So why not like have because I don't want like my husband being like, okay, Stacey, it's bedtime. I'll be like, shut up, you jerk. Don't tell me what to do. But like my fitness ring's like, hey, here's your target window. And I'm like, yeah, good idea.
Yeah. Oh, we're funny creatures, aren't we?
Aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I hope I have a dream tonight that I can remember. No,
yeah, right.
But anyway, I don't know if you had anything more to say to what do you think about the dreams where people think it's prophetic?
Prophecy? Do
you have anything to say to that? Or have you had people that have like said stuff like that too?
I've heard things like that.
Okay.
And I am incredibly skeptical.
Okay.
I will be honest. I don't know. I've also heard stories of things that are not explainable other than God gave this person a vision or whether it was a vision or a dream or whatever, where they knew something or they were told something.
It happens. It for sure happens. So like intercessory prayer, some people have the gift of intercessory prayer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had a time when I was young, like late teenage years kind of, where I was just in a bad place. And for the one and only time in my life that I ever considered just ending it, and had a gun in my trunk, drove out to a dirt road, sat in my car listening to the radio, never did pop the trunk, never did take the gun out, never got to that point, but sat in the car for a good long time, contemplating life and contemplating what's the point of this and what should I do or not do and all of that, right? For probably a good solid hour and a half. And then turned the car back on and went home, went to bed and carried on with my life, right? And like nobody knew about it. Like I was all alone. I did not tell a single soul about it. Years pass. And I run into this girl that I had known back in the day. We had actually, for a time, we had been friends and kept in touch. We had went on a mission trip together. That's where we had met. And she asks me, hey, a couple years ago, she's like, I'm really curious to know if something happened to you like a couple years ago. She's like, and I can't even remember the details because this was a long time ago. Like I said, I'm almost 50. And she said, it was this month, like I woke up in the middle of the night feeling violently sick, got up from my bed to go throw up. And as I'm like throwing up, all I can think about is you. And I am just praying and I am just crying out to the Lord. And she starts telling me this and I just start to weep because I say, nobody knows this. And then it dawned on me at that moment that guess what? God knew. Like I thought I was there alone. Yeah. Ooh, I'm going to get emotional because I don't talk about this. I don't know if I've really shared this. Right. In that moment, I realized God knew. And that he also made it that like another one of his believers who loves him and who also loved me knew. Yeah. And that they could stand in that gap for me and push back like the power of the enemy that was in my mind or around me or whatever. And I don't know what that is, right? Like, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know. Is that something outside of me, inside of me? I don't know what was going on. But anyway, then she got done throwing up and praying for me or whatever. And she was able to go back to sleep. And then she just like didn't really think too much of it after that. And neither did I, right? I had made the decision that I wasn't going to do that. And I moved on with my life and didn't contemplate it again. So that was something.
Yeah.
That you can't explain.
Yeah, totally. And that's the thing. When there's something like that that you can't explain, you say there has to be something to this. But yet, like you said before, every dream is not prophetic.
Mm-hmm.
There's things that I say, maybe that's just, too much cheesecake before you went to bed.
Yeah. Well, and here's one of my deals with it is if somebody has some kind of dream or vision and they come to me and think because of their dream or vision that I ought to take action of some sort, that's when I resist, right? Because the Lord told them. And if the Lord really wanted me to do that, the Lord would tell me, is the way I feel about it.
Yeah.
And so if I am to have a dream or a vision or something, if the Lord wants me to act on it, by all means, if I feel like it's from him, like I want to act on that. I want to be obedient to that, right? But I don't feel like he typically has like one person have a dream to tell the other person what to do. And that's where my skepticism comes in.
Right.
Because then it starts to become, even when he convicts me of something, right? Like when he convicted me of quitting smoking, and it was like my own personal conviction, it wasn't a revelation from God that says, if you in fact believe, you will not smoke cigarettes. That's not what he spoke to my heart. What he spoke to my heart was like, Stacey, I want you to walk in full freedom. I want you to walk and like testify of the freedom you found in me. And I had found freedom in other areas. And he was just showing me personally, show full freedom. Right. And like, and he did like kind of take that from me, like the ability to quit smoking and all of that. I give credit to God for that. But it wasn't, if I had taken that a little bit farther and said to all of my smoking friends, God told me to quit smoking, therefore you all ought to quit smoking. Yeah. Well, no, God didn't speak to you.
Yeah.
He spoke to me.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. And I think people need to be careful not to put their own personal convictions on someone else, because your personal conviction put on someone else becomes legalistic.
Yeah. That's law. And it's not God's law. It's your law.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's where the dreams get just meh for me.
Yeah. I get very skeptical. And I'm like, kind of the same way. If God wants me to do that, then he'll tell me. Yeah. But some people feel that is God speaking through them. Like, well, God told me to tell you, so why don't you listen?
Yeah. And I guess maybe like try to listen.
I think and like, can be confirmation from other people.
That's exactly what I was going to say is like, definitely listen to what someone has to say. There's no harm in listening to what someone has to say, and then ask and pray to the Lord for him to confirm it in you. If in fact there's some sort of action or thing that you maybe should do or not do or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
Dreams are crazy though.
That's
crazy. The thing. That's I think the conclusion is that dreams are crazy. They have huge impact on our lives. I still dream that silly dream of whatever that not scary movie that we watched about helping our neighbors in 4th grade. I still dream it occasionally. I still dream about working at Hillside when I was 15, 16.
Oh, I remember eating there.
And I still dream about it. And in my dream, the line is out the door, because that's how it was on Friday nights and Saturday mornings and whatever. The line was out the door. I'm working by myself. The cook can't get there because their car broke down. I'm there by myself. I don't have any dishwasher. The dishwasher and the cook are gone. I'm there alone, and I have the little guest checks that you write your orders down on. Yeah. I can't find them for anything. I have nothing to write down people's orders. Every table's full and the line's out the door. And I still dream it occasionally. And it's the weirdest thing. It's like this recurring. And I know there's a connection to my life today in when I feel like there's too much on my plate and I can't handle it. Like I need to set something down. I have that dream. It's the weirdest thing.
There's whole like, dream books and dream philosophy and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And I think we be careful not to get too deep in the weeds in that, because not sure how biblical that really is, or like,
No, exactly.
You know what I mean? But
No.
there are some really common dreams that a lot of people have that, I mean, I feel like it makes some sense, right? Like,
yeah, totally.
I have had dreams about my teeth either falling out or my teeth growing really long.
Yeah,
like,
something's wrong with them. Yeah.
like, yeah.
Like horse teeth that grow their whole life.
Yeah, and like I wake up in the morning and go to brush my teeth and they're like these huge teeth or there's no teeth or there's one tooth or like I have these. And I looked it up one time and it said having dreams of your teeth falling out is actually really common, and it tends to mean that you feel like your life's a little like you don't have any control over things in your life.
Yeah.
And so there are some kind of like common dreams or like the falling dream. I don't think my husband would care about this, but he said he had this dream one time when he was a kid that he fell off the moon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he was on the moon and he fell off and he was just falling to earth.
Yeah.
And then boom, he hits the floor. He had fallen off the top bunk.
Yes. Oh,
but
totally.
But in his dream,
it was the moon. It was the moon. So that's the other thing about our brains and dreams is that little split second of top bunk to the floor. He had a long dream sequence. I guarantee you in his head, it was like lots longer than that. A lot of things happened, you know?
Yeah.
But it's only like, how long does it take to fall from the top bunk to the floor? A second? 2 seconds?
Yeah. I mean, it's fast.
And your brain has this long, involved story.
So this is what I believe is when I die, if I die today, okay, I'm going to close my eyes and basically fall asleep, right? Like I'm going to, like, I'm here. And then once my heart and brain is done, boom, I'm
asleep.
Sleeping. I'm asleep. And when I wake up is the same time like we're all going to wake up.
Is it?
Okay. Bear with me. You don't have to agree
I'm listening.
With me.
No,
okay.
I'm listening. I'm curious.
So if someone died 6,000 years ago or someone died a day ago and it's going to be the return of Christ where the dead in Christ will rise and then those that are with him will join, blah, blah, all that.
Yeah.
And it won't matter like to the person who went to sleep thousands of years ago or the person that went to sleep a minute ago.
Yeah, no, it's like sleeping at night.
It does. You don't know. And like when you wake up, yeah, you don't. Like sometimes I wake up to use the bathroom or something and the first thing I just grab my phone only because I use it as a flashlight so I don't turn on any lights, right? So I take my phone and sometimes I'm shocked. Like I feel like I've slept. Like it's got to be close to morning. I feel so rested and it says like 12:30. I'm like, oh my word, I've only been sleeping for 2 hours. Right? It's so, I feel like that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, I don't know that because.
Well, I don't know that.
The body definitely. But is the soul asleep as well? I think the soul.
I think so.
I know soul sleep is we don't know because
we don't know. No, I'm not going to like die on this hill for sure.
No,
like
exactly.
And people can talk to me and my opinions or thoughts about this are like probably going to change over time. Who knows? Yeah. But right now, like that is the most cohesive thought to me.
Yeah. There's also the other side of that then is that the soul immediately goes to God. But it will be rejoined and then it's still waiting. It's those souls under the one of the places they get it from is where the souls of the martyrs are saying, how long, Lord? How long before you finally bring this to an end? In Revelation.
I know. I totally get that too. And I've thought about that because it's just like, well, if we're all asleep, what about those guys? Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, God is God, right? He's the creator of all things and creator of our brains or whatever. And like in your dream, don't tell me in your dream, you're not just like having like conversation and hearing people talking about things and maybe like even saying something in your dream. And like, even if you are asleep kind of, God still hears you saying, oh Lord, how long?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
The ones that are martyred. And I think when you die that kind of death, maybe your sleep is going to be different than the sleep of a 90-year-old American who just goes to sleep and just drifts off into eternity. right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. And I don't know these things. This is just my...
No. Totally. This is...
Yeah, just my thought.
No theology.
No.
Advice given here. We're just rambling our brain.
I mean, it's worthwhile to think about these things.
Oh, totally.
But you don't
take your answers from the scripture.
Yeah. And so every time you, like, if there's ever something that contradicts what I think, it's because I'm not understanding something correctly.
Yes.
It's not because the Bible is contradicting itself. It's a lack of my understanding. And so as I'm reading and as I'm studying and as I'm growing, you have to form some sort of belief system where all of the things that you've been taught, that you've learned from the scripture, make sense to you. And if at some point I see another thing that says, well, that doesn't fit into what I'm thinking, then like, let's rethink this. You know, and these things aren't a salvation issue type of thing that we need to really worry about. I'm just saying it is helpful though when your theology is coherent.
Yes.
You can't be all over the place. I mean, that's no way to live.
I know. I've gone back and forth on the soul sleep.
Yeah, where are you at right now with, like, what do you think happens?
Right now, I believe that we close our eyes in death and we open our eyes in the presence of Jesus immediately.
I believe that too. Well,
immediately. My soul. I don't believe that my soul is going to sleep in the ground, but you know, I literally have gone back and forth on that. Yes and no.
It'll feel immediate is kind of what I think.
I know that it'll feel immediate no matter what it is.
No matter what. Yeah.
That's
all that matters. As long as I don't have to like haunt something down here and be tormented, which I don't believe any of that to be true.
Exactly.
So when I answered yes, I've seen a ghost, like I don't know what that actually was. I'm just saying that's what my brain told me it was.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's from that's from the 20 questions that I answered. I don't even know if that's aired yet.
It has. I don't remember which group of questions. No, because it hasn't aired yet.
Well, it may have by the time this one does. Who knows?
Yes, it will. But the thing with the soul sleep, that's dreamless, I believe.
Why though? Why does it have to be?
I know that's as soon as I said it, I'm like, stop, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Why does it have to be?
I don't know.
Like you said with the martyrs and their restlessness. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's going to be kind of interesting. I know this for a fact. When I do have the time to find out, like when I do get there and find out what the truth really is about eternity and heaven and that other dimension and all of that, I'm going to have a moment where I'm like, oh, duh. Of course, right?
Yes, it all makes sense now.
Yeah, right? You know, I think we're all going to have that moment because none of us are going to understand it completely until we're walking in that. Yeah. And oh, what a glorious day that'll be.
Yes, totally. I fully agree.
With that, I feel like, I don't know where else we can go with this. And we took a couple sharp rights. We kind of ended up in the same vicinity.
Yeah.
Right? It's all brain stuff.
Yeah. Well, dreaming, we don't understand so much about it, especially from this perspective of, like, what does that dream mean? Because you can take it many different directions, you know?
Yeah.
My nightmare about my kids. Is it me wanting to protect my kids? Is it me, you know, having some kind of a fear of someone that I trust and they're not trustworthy? Actually, you know, like you can take it many different ways.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely you can think about it and see if anything's revealed to you through that and pray about it. But yeah, I was just thinking of the song by Doris Day, Dream a Little Dream of Me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was looking up the lyrics of it, but.
Yeah. What are they? I don't even know. I know the song, but I don't know the lyrics at all. I couldn't pull you a lot of those songs, all I know is the chorus and that's it. I don't know anything else.
Yeah. Star shining bright above you. Night breezes seem to whisper, I love you. Birds singing in the sycamore trees. Dream a little dream of me. Say nighty night and kiss me. Just hold me tight and tell me you'll miss me. While I'm alone and blue as can be. Dream a little dream of me. Stars fading, but I linger on. Dear, still craving your kiss. I'm longing to linger till dawn. Dear, just saying this. Sweet dreams till sunbeams find you. Sweet dreams that leave all worries behind you. But in your dreams, whatever they be, dream a little dream of me. Stars fading, but I linger on. Dear, still craving your kiss. I'm longing to linger till dawn. Dear, just saying this. Sweet dreams till sunbeams find you. Sweet dreams that leave all worries behind you. But in your dreams, whatever they be, dream a little dream of me.
Oh, my word. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's sweet. So you hope you dream tonight. I hope I don't dream some of my dreams tonight.
I only want good dreams.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that why we kiss little kids and say, sweet dreams?
Yeah, it is. Totally.
So, Until next time, sweet dreams, Lois.
Bye.